Hey, it's Matt O'Leary, and these are 5 eclectic new prog albums that came out this past fall that you probably missed. This is kind of a stand-in for my normal New Music Monthly episode, and I'm going to do this one, and I'm also going to do 5 mellow albums, so more relaxed, chill stuff. But I just had a bunch of albums, and I wanted to put them together in a way that made sense. And these particular albums were so vastly different from each other that there was no real way to categorize it except the kind of pretentious eclectic. Also, I feel like I have such a hard time committing to a certain genre, so I feel like my brand is kind of eclecticism, which again, pretty pretentious, but I'm just gonna own it. I'm not doing 10 albums, 15 albums. No, I've narrowed it down to 5 albums that I think you're really gonna enjoy, the cream of the crop. Very different albums, like I said, from each other. And so odds are, if you don't like one, you'll like another. And for you prog purists out there, I'm very much stretching the word prog. This is lowercase progressive music, highly technical, progressive structurally, writing-wise, playing-wise, but not necessarily stuff that follows in the wake of Yes and Genesis. Leading off today is some British progressive rock, art rock, female-led with some strong Mir or bent knee vibes. This is Sans Freud with their debut album, Hello Boyle Brain. And just to get it out of the way right away, because music reviewing tends to be just drawing comparisons to other artists, and I do think that's really useful in this case, because this reminds me a lot of that Plantoid album that I reviewed earlier in the year that is one of my favorites of the year. But more recognizably are some Kate Bush-esque vocal affectations. Gammons is a track that encapsulates what this record does really well, which is juxtapose these very chaotic jazz rock outbursts with these sweeping, elegant symphonic prog bits. And some gorgeous acoustic piano leads the way just as much as this distorted guitar sound. The two kind of take turns in the spotlight. Hardware Brews lilts along with this classical arpeggiated piano sound, eventually fading into this doomy, dramatic noise rock section that again fades back into jazz. Tension and release is kind of the name of the game here for Sans Freud. The piano is especially excellent. Her voice just soars, and the writing is pretty solid too. This is a band to keep your eye on. In these monthly new music wrap-ups, I'm noticing a trend that I always have one token progressive metal album, and I'm just going to keep that trend going with the first band probably ever from Costa Rica that I've covered on the channel. It's the debut album Hyperliminal by Giant Sleeper. I can feel Giant Sleeper is kind of in that Scale the Summit or Arch Echo or David Maximicic or intervals kind of lane. There's lots of these long, twisting, ambitious instrumental passages, brain-melting riffs with some time shifts and genty moments. Guitar tone-wise, it kind of reminds me of the artist Thrillkill, who I recently covered, but I think this album it takes me back to a specific album from like 7-8 years ago that I really loved by a band called Third Ion. All clean vocals on this thing, and I love the tone and just a melodic sensibility of the guy on the mic. He has a very soulful but light tenor range that matches perfectly these atmospheric, softer moments on the album. There's just great dynamics on this album, great light and shade and everything in between, and I love every ingredient, every element here. I think Elucidate is probably the song to check out if you're looking to just test this one out. I love that track. If you like dirty loops or anything in that realm of ridiculously over-the-top, complex pop music, then this next one is a hidden gem just waiting for you. It's a bit off the beaten path for me, but I love this band. I just have to shout them out. It's the 4th album, Rejoice, by the Japanese pop rock band Official Ega Dandism. which roughly translates to manly mustache or mustache men or something. I discovered this four-piece band back on 2021's Editorial, which was a dense pop album with winding, progressive song structures and absurd key changes and modulation. A lot of mainstream pop. I don't have anything against it except that I just find it a little bit generic and formulaic in a musical sense. The chord progressions seem predictable, the melodies, all of that, just a little bit too straight for me. But even some of the more musically intriguing stuff on the charts has an image, a cultural context that I find distracting and off-putting. But with something Japanese, I have little to no cultural context at all, and I think that language barrier keeps me from engaging with the lyrics in any sense, so I'm just purely focused on music. Get Back to Jinsei appears on its face to be a typical J-pop banger, but you'll recognize right away these advanced chord progressions and very technical playing. And their songs are also pretty structurally progressive. Like the end of Get Back to Jinsei has this second chorus that is introduced like right at the end. They have one chorus throughout the song, and then there's the second one that's above and beyond, even better, even catchier than the first. I still like Editorial best, I think, but this album has so much gold and so much variety. The song Mixed Nuts, for example, just this rapid tempo, lounge jazz kind of thing. You got this walking bass line that's like running. And in general, there's just some incredible bass and drum work across the album to complement some of the catchiest tunes you've ever heard. So I kind of lied about having one token progressive metal album, because this month I have two. Except this one is much different than Giant Sleeper. This band is well known and beloved in the genre, and really it's the best the genre has to offer. Seriously, I think no band is really doing it better at this point, and that is the supergroup from England, Frost. Life in the Wires picks up right where the last album, Day and Age, left off, both conceptually in its storyline and also musically. I think the first half of this album really does sound like it's just a continuation of Day and Age, which I actually really liked a lot. Frost is really the perfect name for this band because all their music, all their sound has this glacial chill about it. The vocals, the synths, the polish on it all. Icy. And better than any progressive metal band going, I think Frost connects the sounds of like 80s and 90s prog, like neo-prog, with modern prog. They have both, and it's probably because some of the band members here were in bands like It Bites and IQ that came from the 80s and 90s, and they're definitely carrying that forward. I only discovered the genre-defining Million Town album really a few years ago, I think, and it really is all it's hyped up to be. I think it came out in like 2006, and it just encapsulates so much of what this music is about and why it's great. And I think that Life in the Wires still kind of stands in the shadow of that album, but as of now, it's probably my second favorite Frost album, with huge highlights like the title track and Evaporator and Idiot Box, just really larger than life kind of sounds going on here. It really is one to check out. It's genre defining, like I said, and it's still one that I feel like I need to unpeel and unravel because it's a long album, it's a double album, and there's just so much to soak in. Jem Godfrey's voice is a big part of the draw for me with this band because it's very soulful, but it also has this kind of 90s grunge era Scott Weiland intensity to it when he really pushes it. We make another jarring and ridiculous shift with this next album, which is really an EP from one of my favorite artists going right now. They're very young and just a really unique musical project, I think. It's called Nothing Untoward by AmOvercast. AmOvercast makes math rock, pop punk, I think that's probably the best way to describe this. It's extremely catchy hooks delivered in very short songs. His 2017 album Drown to You is so addicting. It just pulls you in with melodies and never relents. It is so much goodness piled into such a small little package, and there's truly not a wasted moment. Amazing vocal melodies and guitar riffs will just come and then never come again. Like, they just hit you once and then they're gone forever, and you got to listen to the whole album again to get it. But you want to, because everything's so short and so quick and so immediate that you just have to keep going. It's just one of those albums you could just repeat and repeat and repeat. And I think it's probably one of the best examples of that type of approach that I've really seen, and really a big influence on my own album, Dichotomania. Nothing Untoward is acoustic guitar driven, but it's got the same sugary highs and sense of economy as his previous albums and EPs. I love the lush touch that the acoustic guitar has on his sound. You know, I love the connection of those mathy, angular, jagged riffs with this soft touch, this soft sound of the acoustic. If you grew up in the aughts with all these super corny pop punk acts, Never Shout Never, Owl City, artists like that, and you kind of want something similar, you have some nostalgia for that sound, but with a lot more musical depth and just substance to it, then this is for you. And that's it. That's 5 eclectic prog albums from really the past couple months that I think you should check out. And I'm very much interested in what you have to share from recent months as well. My door's always open to your lovely comments, so do comment below. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you so much for watching.